is your home team, Cork City!
Cork City, the Rebels, Ireland's largest county and third largest city. It has raised some of Ireland's best sports stars, from Ronan O'Gara to Sonia O'Sullivan, from Derval O'Rourke to Roy Keane. Sport is ingrained in its folklore. It has 8 GAA clubs. It has 5 basketball teams, 2 Aussie Rules teams, a baseball club, and plenty of rugby teams in Ireland's top league. But there is only one Irish soccer team in the League of Ireland, Cork City.
The one thing about people from Cork is they'll support every sport. You know, you don't have people that are just soccer fans or Gaelic football fans or basketball fans or whatever. They'll follow a team from Cork. And I suppose that rubs off then on kids coming up. They'll play multiple sports and kids then find their niche. And, you know, it's a big sporting town.
Cork's League of Ireland history starts much earlier than you might expect. 3 years after the inception of the Irish League in 1921, Fordsons became Cork's first team. Based 260 kilometres from the capital Dublin, with their players working in the Ford's tractor factory, they quickly showed their football strengths. Playing their matches in Ballinlough Road, the team nicknamed the Tractors would win FAI Cup titles in 1925 and 1933. The team played between 1924 and 38, containing players such as Paddy Barry and Jimmy Turnbull, before being replaced by another Leesider team. 1932 also saw Cork City's first local rivalry, with their formation of Cork Bohemians. They initially played their games in the Munster Agricultural Society Greyhound Park, before moving to Turner's Cross. Although having the likes of Mia Lynch and Bill Lacey in their ranks, they never reached any silverware, before financial woes led to their resignation in 1934. After Fordsons came the short stay of Cork City, using many of the same players, but now in a new home at the Mardyke. They lasted a short spell before they were replaced by Cork United.
It isn't a coincidence that Cork teams grow the football so easily.
This is where success really began. Cork United brought 5 league titles home in 6 seasons between 1940 and 1946. These triumphs were topped off with FA Cup victories at the start and end of their reign. Crowds flocked to see the likes of Florrie Burke and Sean McCarthy play, before once again they were replaced in the league in 1948 with Cork Athletic, winning 2 league titles and 2 cup titles in their first 5 years. This team of players would become household names throughout the city.
So at that time, Cork Athletic, the likes of Davy Noonan and Paddy Noonan, Courtney was the goalie, O'Leary was centre forward getting all the goals, and Foxy Danny was left foot, Florrie Burke centre half, all these fellas, big names.
Soon Cork City would start getting crowded, as in 1951, Evergreen Rovers became a League of Ireland team, taking over at Turner's Cross. It would then come in the late 50s that Cork City would form one of its greatest rivalries, between the Hibernians and Celtics.
I played right full, mainly, but I played in the middle of the back four. As it turned out, it was centre half then. I played centre forward. I even played on goal one time when the goalkeeper was injured and you couldn't bring on a replacement.
I went from Leesiders to Celtic area. It was right half back, you know, but it was basically a midfielder, I'd say.
Although both teams got the chance to represent Ireland in European competitions, facing teams such as Valencia, Schalke and Slavia Sofia, even the players and fans will tell you that the big games of the year were the local derby fixtures.
The local derbies, we just had bragging rights for until them then meet again the next time. And you know, Celtic were always on top in the 60s. They were a superb team. Cork Hibernians probably had it better in the 70s, but there was never landslide victories. The Minnows would raise their game, like the games, they'd be intense then, and that's all it was. You went back to work the following day. blew your head, blew your top off, and that was it until you meet again,
So it was huge. I mean, it was like Cork Celtic were based here in Turner's Cross, and Hibs were based in Flower Lodge, which is now Parky Ring. And it was a proper back in the 70s. There was no Sky Sports. There was no. It was people had just live sport to follow. There was not much on television or whatever. So you had massive crowds going to games, and when Celtic were playing Hibs, it was like Rangers and Celtic in Scotland or Liverpool and Everton in England. It was huge rivalry, and you'd get thousands walking from the Ballyfahan area of the city over to Temple Hill for games, and vice versa on match day. It was just massive,
Where there was one in the game, and it was famously covered on RT News, on the news programme, not the sports programme, and it became known as these boots were made for walking. There was a riot.
That was right in that goal, yeah. Just there now and that. The Wigan went in on top of a goalkeeper that Celtic had, Alex Ludwig. Some fellas around the local derby would have been looking for something like that to happen, and here we go, we're all in then, She's just pandemonium, old man, Not a good player with Cockabarians, tough man. But he ran from the top of the half about that. And he took off boots first down. That way.
Up into the air.
In over the top of him. And he didn't, I'd say, looking at it, I see it now and again, it crops up. But I definitely think, no, I didn't care who he is. Whether it was one crowd or,
Our clashes with Celtic were mainly, they might be, I won't say a rough house, but they were tougher matches than you'd have around the place. Like they'd be, I remember Tommy Maroney was our manager at one stage when we played the match out here in Turner's Cross. And there was a melee happened. Of course, myself here thought I was being great by separating a few of the players and so on. When we came back in at half time, I can remember Tommy Maroney was annoyed that this had developed into a melee like that. And he said, if this happens again, he said, I want everyone involved. Like it was really throwback days that you wouldn't normally like. So obviously he didn't approve of me. He's trying to separate the guys at the time. So.
Yeah, and it's just to show you what local derbies meant. I said there was 12,000 here for the first local derby that year, and when they won the league, there was only 5,000 at the match. They were playing St. Pat's, wasn't it? They played St. Pat's in the decider. So that would tell you the attraction the local derbies had, particularly in those two seasons where the two teams were neck and neck.
A good thing can't last forever, and as the years rolled on, money began to dry up. Celtic made a last-ditch marketing stunt, hiring players such as George Best, Jeff Hurst and Uwe Zieler to month-long and even single-game contracts. In 1977, Hibernians folded and were replaced by Albert Rovers. Celtics would follow soon in 1979. Things went from bad to worse as Flower Lodge was sold to the GAA. It now goes by Parky Rin. Then, in 1982, Cork Alberts left the league and there was no football team left in Cork City.
Well, the very fact that Cork supported two League of Ireland teams and they seemed to support them for many years. And then all of a sudden there was no team here, so it was a kind of a downer for the soccer supporters in this town, definitely,
It was actually a tragedy, really, when you consider, and even Flower Lodge being sold then, that was even worse. Can you imagine, that the FAI, you felt the FAI should have intervened and bought it. But really, the people who owned it would have been people of the city, because I remember going around annoying neighbours, knocking on the door, a shilling a week, the hall ground fund. But that's how low soccer had got at that stage. Even lost the ground, that was painstakingly built on an ordinary shilling a week.
It wouldn't be until 1984 that football would return, with the formation of Cork City FC. And with that, fans could return to Turner's Cross.
I'm a football fan since I was knee-high, you know, and my dad actually took me, my first game I went to was a Cork Hibs game up in Flower Lodge, and it was actually against Bows. So I always followed Cork Hibs. They were my team, not Celtic. But obviously, both those clubs fell by the wayside. And then in 1984, Cork City was formed, and I've been supporting them from the first game here at the Cross, you know. So, yeah, so big City fan.
The old Cork City derby still lives on in the memory of some devoted fans. But should the good old days return?
It'd be better, yeah, but I don't think Cork's big enough for that, to be honest. Yeah.
But what happened then was we had maybe half the Hibs supporters coming out here, obviously to see Celtic getting beat.
Yeah.
But it was that way, you know, and that's what kept the two teams going in the city. But I'm not too sure that thing is there anymore.
No.
In a town like this, there's places around the world, in England and even in Ireland, where there's like local rivalries in places that are smaller than Cork City, you know. So I think a local rivalry between Cork City and another club would 100% be a great thing. Like,
The Cove Ramblers, Cork City is near enough, and for those local derbies, the crowd is decent. Like,
So, it's a great question. I'd say no. I tell you, if it continued with Hibs and Celtic, it would be brilliant. But because now we've had, like since 1984, we've had one club in here, it would be awful to break up the fan base.
I'd have to say no, Celtic and Hibs that time, they were the days, they were the days of what I told most about soccer.